Guy McPherson here with Peter Miller. We are having a conversation based on a blog post by Colorado University at Boulder. And that blog post, which is linked underneath the video here, the blog post is called Six Tips for Coping with Climate Anxiety. It was produced April 18th, 2024. And we are on video number 6 of 7, and this video and the subsection of the blog post are called Remember That You're Not Alone. And I'll read just a little bit to start us off. The lead: it's easy to get caught up in all the bad news surrounding climate change, but it's also important to remember that there are a lot of people working to solve this issue, and positive change can and will happen. Whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. Positive things can and will happen in your life, and especially if you focus on those things and try to identify them as they're occurring. And you're still not alone, even if we can't save the world. So,
hmm hmm hmm
Peter, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, in some, I mean, I guess I'm a bit conflicted on that. I think in some ways we've created a world where people can feel very alone, um, because of the way technology has evolved. And I'll keep beating this horse that we don't make mental health education the priority that it needs to be. And so, I mean, there's lots being lost in terms of socializing, healthy communication and interaction. There's lots being lost. Um, and kind of being overly reliant on things like texting and social media as a way to try and be together, which I
Mhm.
think is a pseudo or false way of being together. We're not really being together. And so the needs of that would be filled through relationship are not being really met much of the time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I feel this on a daily basis and I see it. It's kind of a sad reality. I'll be at a restaurant and I'll see a family sitting all around a table, all with their phones in their face. And I'm kind of going like, what the hell is going on here, right? Like, like, what's happened to normal interaction? It's like it's been stolen.
The
In
machines have won.
some cases, and like unless you're extremely purposeful and mindful about it, and you say, "Hey, everybody, like let's try and interact in the old
Right,
way. In the old way, let's put this down while we're eating at least."
right.
Um,
When I was a kid, we couldn't have the television on when we were eating. Dinner was for dinner, right?
mhm,
And we had family conversation. Imagine that. And
mhm.
you're right. We see it everywhere now, right? People walking down the street, their eyes on their phone, that sort of thing all the time.
It's very common, very common.
Remember the title of this section of this post. Remember that you're not alone. So it's easy to get caught up in the bad news, but it's also not very difficult to find a sense of community and spend time with the people that you consider part of your community.
Yeah, it's a double-sided coin, or a double-edged sword, as they say. So while there can be all these things happening that can detract from healthier communication, we can still, strangely, we can find opportunities to interact with people who share similar concerns, um, and host meetings, right? There's lots of groups online talking about this subject that you can participate in. Um, People who you can get acquainted with, I guess, who share similar concerns, probably even in your local area.
Mhm.
Um, I, I've even had, that experience as well since I've been hosting these videos. And it's nice to, when someone gets it on the same level that you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it is, I guess what we're saying is it's like it's possible to find like-minded people, right? And you can even use the technology that sometimes separates us or oftentimes separates us. You can use that technology to find the people who are like-minded and then have a fruitful and nourishing discussion with them, right?
Yes, there's these thing called newspapers. They come in digital form now. And
Uh,
there's all these things in the newspaper that can bring you together with other people. Imagine that.
yeah, so you can find opportunities to connect. You mean like meetings again and stuff like
Yes.
that, or whatever conferences to attend,
Yes,
these kinds of
absolutely.
things. So yeah, yeah, you can make it part of your social life in a way.
Hmm. Right. Absolutely. We used to do things besides stare at our phones. We used to have hobbies, and there are other people who had the same or similar hobbies. They're out there. Remember that you're
Mm.
not alone.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
the title of this particular section. And I think it's important to keep in mind that you don't have to be alone ever.
People do like to talk about this. Like I think that was one of I was just I thought it would be impossible to talk to Guy. When I first reached out to him, I thought, oh, he's way too big and famous. I'll never talk to Guy. And then he reached out to me, surprisingly. So that was really nice. But then, along the way, you can make connections with other people too, and then just interact and share a similar concern for the ways that humans are conducting themselves, and what it feels like to be immersed in that, and kind of validate each other, right? You validate the feelings of what it's like.
Right.
Yeah.
Or maybe you disagree. Maybe you have a conversation that actually involves discussion and disagreement in a civil manner, because maybe the person you're talking with thinks that there's all kinds of things we can do and at the societal level. And on the other hand, you might think that there's only something you can do at the community level. So
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at any rate, even if there's some disagreement, just to share the general concern, right? Um, uh, and kind of just, well, I think that feeling validated, people kind of crave that as one of their things in life. If something's important to them, they want to hear it reflected back, like, yeah, I agree, that's important.
Right.
And it's sad that, these things are happening and there's not much we can do. It's nice to hear that reflected back. Quite therapeutic, actually.
Right. E- Even if we're going down with the ship, it's nice to know that there are other people on the ship who feel the same way, that
Right.
mistakes have been made, that we're all headed in the same direction.
And if things got to to very horrible crisis points, like, I mean, there would be some people who would probably try and ease the awfulness of it, hopefully, if they're thinking along these lines before it reaches that point.
Right. Yes, that would be nice to see.
That's one of my wishes, I guess.
All right. So let's wrap it right there, and we'll put together one more video in this series of 7 videos. So stay tuned.